Welcome to the Real Estate Investing Club. This is the place everyday real estate investors gather to share their best stories, biggest insights, and favorite tactics to grow a portfolio of cash flowing properties in today's market. Here's your host, Gabe Peterson.
All right. Welcome back to another episode of the Real Estate Investing Club. Today we have Mike DeHaan with us from Washington State, Spokane. I never have my friendly Washington people on this podcast, so I'm super excited to have him on here. He is from Collecting Keys, a master at wholesaling and flipping. So all you wholesalers and flippers out there, this is the episode to listen to. Mike, I am super excited to have you on here. Thank you very much for hopping on the show.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, Gabe. I appreciate it. And likewise, I feel like most of the people that we have either on my show or shows I'm on, they're always like out east or in the South or somewhere like that. We don't see a lot of Northwest folks for some reason.
I know what's going on. It's because we're, it's the shy state. People don't want to get on the podcast. Come on.
Yeah, like the Washington freeze, is that what they call it? We're not very friendly compared to other places.
Yeah, we're fighting against that. All right. Well, hey, man, I told you before we got on the show, we like stories. We like to hear how people got to where they are. So take us to the beginning of your story. How'd you get started in real estate?
Yeah. So, I didn't grow up in a real estate family. I always like to say that to start because I know a lot of people did. And I grew up in a family where my parents bought the house that I grew up in like the 80s before I was born, and they still live there. So, real estate wasn't really a big part of their life. I went to college. Well, I guess first of all, I grew up out in Bozeman, Montana.
Okay.
Well, back when it was a cattle town, not when it's like the mecca for skiing and fishing and rich tourists like it is now. So I grew up out there, went to school at Gonzaga University out here in Spokane, got my degree in electrical engineering. Didn't really enjoy school while I was going through it, but I started school sort of during the financial crisis, and the MO for everybody was like to go and get a hireable degree because no one had jobs and everyone was sort of losing everything at that point. So I went to school and I ended up doing engineering strictly because the first career fair that I went to my freshman year, there was like 8 companies there and all of them were engineering companies. And I was like, well, cool. That seems like a clear path to some level of success and security. So went through there, struggled through school because it was not really my thing, but, made it through somehow and graduated on time. Moved out to your neck of the woods, actually in Tacoma, worked down there at Boeing for a spell. And pretty much from the first day, I realized I'd made a mistake and it was not for me at all. But I toughed through it for a few years. Decided that I was, jumped through different departments trying to find something that I liked. Ended up that it was the area that I didn't like. So I got a job out here in Spokane at another engineering company. And then the eye-opening thing for me was at that company, I really enjoyed working at the company. It was a Vista Utilities, a local utility out here. Great company to work for. I just hated the job. And I just decided that I needed to do anything else but that. So in January of 2018, I just quit. I basically decided that I was going to give up my salary and just try to figure out what I wanted to do instead of being an engineer. I didn't have any real plan. At that point in time, I decided I was into fitness and I was coaching at a gym. So I wanted to go into physical therapy, worked in a PT clinic for a month, and then decided I hated that. I was reading about business, reading about entrepreneurship, reading about wealth building. And the most common reoccurring topic was real estate. And so ultimately I started getting curious about that, listening to podcasts, reading more books on it. I had a friend and my now business partner who owned a rental property. So I started connecting with him about what that looked like. And I kind of just decided that was what I wanted to pursue. And so I just jumped into it. As with most people, when they start, I was obsessed with passive income being the ultimate goal. So I was just originally trying to buy anything that would cash flow like most people do, especially back then. My income had dropped 90% from when I was working as an engineer and I was just working at a gym after that. So I was desperately looking for cash flow. I liquidated my corporate 401k and I bought my first couple of rental properties just straight off the market. Didn't know anything about rentals. I did the paper math of these will have a payment of $1,200. They'll rent for $1,600. I'll make $400 a month on these two properties. And of course, that's not how it works. You have to account for vacancy, maintenance, property management, all that sort of stuff. But it still got some money coming in. It kind of got the bug. From there, I decided I needed to generate more capital, be smarter. So I started trying to buy distressed properties. I bought my first duplex at the end of 2018. And, bird that property, fixed it up. That was me and my wife on watching the school of YouTube, trying to figure out how to do upgrades and things like that. Half the time, all the tenants were still there, which was super weird. And
wow, you did the flip while they lived in the property?
Well, we were updating it, right, and making it less, terrible.
Grungy.
Yeah. But so it's it was enough to get an increased value. And so did that. Said I wanted to increase my cap generation. So I met someone at a local meetup that had money. I had time and hustle at that point. So we decided we were going to flip houses together. Started flipping houses in 2019. First house I flipped, it took me 4 months. I made about $4,000. I didn't know what we were doing. Pretty much everything went wrong that you could kind of think of on that versus the house burning down. Right. We had flooded the house. We had the pipes burst.
Oh God.
We had a break-in that went on. We had all sorts of weird stuff. We had contractors steal money, you name it, it happened. But started getting some large checks as I started to flip more and more deals. And then late in 2019, I got invited to kind of the cool kids club here in town, of meetups, which it was one of the wholesalers put it on mainly to build his buyers list, right, with key people. And I got invited to it, and I started meeting the deal finders whose deals I was looking at. And I was I'm not these guys aren't that much smarter than me, if at all. I feel I can do this. And so I decided at that point that I was going to go off market, and start marketing myself.
You had done everything on market at this point, or at
Correct.
least through a wholesaler, through a broker or something like that.
Yeah. So a lot of the stuff we were finding before that we would buy as either REOs, or, I would buy from other wholesalers. I mean, I'd only done 5 deals at that point.
Okay.
So on market, they were REOs or I'd buy from wholesalers.
Nice.
And decided I was going to, instead of paying them fat fees, I was going to figure out how to do it myself. And so I, reached out to my now business partner. The person I was flipping houses with had no interest in that. So we kind of parted ways. I reached out to Dan, who's my now business partner, my best friend from college, and kind of the one who got me introduced to real estate. And we decided that we were going to start up working together. A bunch of stuff happened between then and now. But if you fast forward to where we're at right now, we now have a total team of 17 people, and we're currently wholesaling in 22 different markets around the United States. So it's that's a big leap from where that all started. But there's a ton of stuff in the middle, and I've been rambling for a little bit. So I figured,
no worries. I love your story. I connected a lot because I was a corporate guy too, and I just couldn't take the grind and had to figure out a way out. So. Love that. You mentioned at the beginning of your story that when you first decided that you needed to leave, you started reading books. Was Rich Dad Poor Dad, was that the first book you read?
No, it actually wasn't. So the first book actually that pushed me over the edge of the corporate mindset was the 4-Hour Work Week.
Oh yeah. Tim Ferriss.
Yeah. Tim Ferriss. So that really got me thinking. And funnily enough, I was on a trip with my now business partner, Dan. We were in Hawaii, me and my wife and him and his wife. And I was reading this book and I was like, dude, we don't have to do this anymore. Like this book has changed everything. You don't understand. And he wasn't bought in for years after that. That was 2017 still. And he wasn't really bought into it until 2019. That kind of started to get me going. And then there was just other the Millionaire Fast Lane was another one that sort of has that same theme of leverage and using the internet and things like that to make more money. And that's really been the basis of even my real estate business. So our whole business now is still virtual. We've been virtual since the beginning. Our entire team is, not necessarily overseas virtual, but they're all location independent. So we have our team can be anywhere, and we've built that foundation from the start because my goal was always to not be tied down to a location.
Yep. Yeah, I actually have 4-Hour Work Week on my desk. I got it probably like 2 years ago. I still haven't read it.
Oh, really?
But I feel like I know. I've talked to so many people who've read it and who've talked to me about it. So I feel like I understand it, and it's something that I've been doing in my own business. So, but I've heard it's a great book, great way to get started. And it sounds like you guys are utilizing the wisdom there. You're in 23 markets across the United States. And that is, so many people, especially in the middle of the country, they think that they're kind of stuck. They're like, oh, there's just no, I can't make any money flipping houses. There's just no opportunity here if you're in a smaller market. But you don't have to be limited to the market you're in. You can always branch out. You can always do real estate across the United States. That's one of the reasons why I love it so much. So let's dig into that a little bit. Let's make that the theme about this podcast, is doing out-of-state investing and utilizing a VA team to really scale your business and do it, location independent, regardless of where you are, being able to invest in all the markets wherever you want to invest. So let's go back to the beginning a little bit. You started in Spokane in Washington State. How did you start making those first few moves to expand your business outside of the, your local area?
Before we continue on with today's guest, I want to tell you guys about a community I'm launching on School to help investors like yourself grow your own portfolio. In this community, you'll get access to all the docs I use, all the systems I've built, everything I've used to grow my own portfolio, as well as instructions and guidance on how to get out there and find great deals, how to finance those deals, and then how to manage them for great returns. Since we're just launching it, the price will be set at a measly $20 per month, and whatever price you join at is the price you'll have for life. We will be increasing the price as the group grows, so if you're at all interested in growing your portfolio along other investors, now is the time to join. I will put the link somewhere in the bio or on our podcast website at therealestateinvestingclub.com, so if you are interested, head on over there. With that said, let's get back to the podcast.
Yeah, so we didn't actually do that for the first couple of years, right? We stayed almost exclusively to Spokane until about late 2021, right? So
and when you were in Spokane, were you guys doing all the stuff yourself? Were you utilizing VAs? How was your business kind of set up at that point?
Yeah, so I'll say first off, when we started, wholesaling wasn't necessarily on the radar for us at that point. I was still obsessed with cash flow. I still wanted that passive income. And so I remember Dan and I's first meeting, our goal was we wanted to buy 50 houses in the next 10 years, right? And that was kind of our goal. And it had to be cash flowing rentals. We kind of had like a buy box that we were looking for. So, went down that route. We joined a mastermind that focused on lead generation and, building like a pipeline. Started down that route and, just started marketing. And very quickly, what would happen was the deals would come in. There would be opportunity there, right? Because we were marketing to people that had financial issues. They had motivation to sell, but we didn't want that property. Like it was in like a bad part of town. It needed a ton of work. There's a bunch of things wrong with it. And so that's kind of how wholesaling came on the scene. It took us a little while to figure out the negotiation tactics and how to close deals. From when we started marketing to when we closed our first deal, it took almost 6 months, and we were about $30,000 in the hole on marketing cost.
Oh, wow.
So I just like to share that.
You spent $30,000 in 6 months. Was that, at the beginning? That's a lot of money to be spending at the beginning of your business, especially on marketing. What were you guys doing?
Yeah, I go all in, man. That's how I've been spending. We were sending direct mail, right? So we had budgeted $5,000 a month to that. And so that's what we were focused on, and we were very committed to that. And the biggest thing that drove us was the mentors that we had hired and we had put ourselves around. They really preached just consistency of action, right? And so we said, if we're going to do this, we need to commit to it. And also too, I will say that we had the opportunities coming in the door. Like we could tell from like the conversations we were having that there was opportunities there. We just didn't know how to capitalize on them. So we had to go through that whole learning process. And we did that fully ourselves for that the first almost year. And then I went to an in-person meetup with our mastermind group, and we were going through the CRM. At that point, we had closed like 7 deals. We made a little bit of money, but we were still struggling. And he said to us, we were going through our CRM. He's like, I think the problem is you guys. He's like, I think you guys just suck at sales. And I was like, I mean, you're not wrong. I have an engineering background. I don't have a sales background. And so we came back and we said, we need to hire a sales rep. And we looked at our bank account. We had $4,000 in the bank. And we're like, okay, cool. So we need to choose between ordering marketing or hiring a sales rep. And then we kind of just decided, well, or we could order marketing and just hope that our sales rep closes deals so we can pay them. And we're like, okay, perfect. So that's what we did. So we literally drained the bank account and started interviewing people to come and work for us. And we had no business hiring anybody. Like, we had no money. We ended up finding somebody that was not a real estate person. It was actually a female that had experience working as a bartender and selling kettle corn at a local farmer's market.
Hey man, bartenders, they have sales skills. If you're a bartender, you can sell. I don't care what you say. I was a bartender for a small bit, and I know it takes a lot of sales to talk to so many people.
Well, yeah, exactly. And then also too, as we were going through it, we're like, she kind of like is used to our clientele. I mean, it's like the clientele that we only have with motivated sellers. They are frequent bar goers, right?
Makes sense.
And so we decided to give her a shot. Like, she had hustle. She was very persistent in her conversations with us. And she came in and she closed 7 deals in her first 3 weeks.
Damn, good job. That's awesome.
And that was kind of when, I guess, the idea of leverage of people became really apparent to us. And the crazy thing is too about her is, you know, she was only with us for about 6 months, but she didn't have any real estate knowledge really at all. And we didn't actually close any deals that were new. She only closed deals that were already in our pipeline that we were just not capitalizing on. Right. And how the conversation would normally look is she would go and be like, yeah, so they said that they wanted 180. I think I thought like 150 sounded better. So I just pitched that and they said, yes, is that okay? And I'm like, yeah, that's awesome. You know, but like, she would just like go off Zillow, like didn't even know basic comps or things like that. And just was good with people.
Yeah.
So that sort of introduced that. And then from there, we started looking at like different roles, and you know, overseas staff, things like that. So we started bringing on our first like Filipino admins. We built like a lead management team with a couple guys from Central America that worked pretty well. And then as we started to grow, we reached this point, you know, so going into 2021, we were doing a very aggressive clip of deals. We had our sales team figured out. We had our data process figured out, marketing process figured out. So we did, I think it was 60 something deals in 2021. We're doing pretty well, made multi 7 figures in revenue. But we've reached a point in Spokane where we were spending more and more money to get less deals. We kind of like capped out the market.
Yeah.
Right. And so we said, well, why do we have to be here? Why don't we try and go somewhere else? So we basically threw a dart at a map and ended up in Knoxville, Tennessee.
It's a good place to be.
Yeah, it was, especially back then. It wasn't as blown up as it is right now with all the Smoky Mountains, as popular as that's gotten. So we ended up there, and we literally just took our same marketing tactics. We planted it there. We started getting calls. Everything sort of worked, and we're like, this is easy. Like, why don't we just like stick to this plan? And you know, obviously there was some kinks that we figured out, but kept growing, and that's that. So
nice, man. I love it. And that's the beauty of it. Once you get the systems in place, once you figure out how the systems work together, you can plug and play. You can put it in Knoxville, you can put it in Austin, you can put it in Spokane. It'll work anywhere. So it sounds like you guys were doing, what was your marketing strategy? Like, did you guys do a lot of mailers, PPC? What was the main way of generating the leads?
Yeah. So we kind of have like a 3-tiered approach to it. So we have our targeted marketing that we do, which is direct mail. That accounts for about 75% of our deals that we close. So direct mail. So that's specifically targeted in the way that we're hitting people that have recorded issues, you know, bankruptcies, liens, things like that. And then we have our, I guess more like widespread marketing that we do, which is mostly in the form of SMS. So like we'll take that and we will tax like the larger lists of people. So absentee owners, people with high equity, things like that. And then we have our bottom of the pyramid, I guess, which we call like our brand marketing. So I know you said you checked out our website before the podcast.
Yeah,
We've
it's
really
a good look at one. If you guys want a good example of a buyer's website, check out. Dude, I don't even remember what your podcast was. What's your podcast?
Oh, so it's not on that
or
one.
another podcast.
Backyard Home Buyers.
Backyardhomebuyers.com. Yeah, that is. It's a beautiful website. I think you guys did it great.
Yeah, thank you. So we've always focused on building that very professional looking brand. And then on top of that, what we do is in every market that we drop into, we do geo-specific website retargeting. So basically we set up on the back end that if people
like
visit
Facebook,
our website,
Google.
yeah, and they're from like these locations that we're marketing in, they're going to start to get hit with retargeting ads on all their websites they visit, on like the sidebars, on their YouTube videos, on their social media, things like that. And what that does is it allows us to get in front of people so much more regularly. So like in marketing, they say someone needs to be exposed to your brand, was it 14 to 17 times before they buy? Yeah. So with us, that happens so much faster than if we're only mailing people every single month.
Yeah.
Right. And we get a lot more authority because they can see this professional presence there compared to the average Joe Schmo wholesaler that's trying to figure it out.
Yeah. I think like dollar for dollar retargeting ads are, in my opinion, it's the best money you can spend in your marketing campaign. It's only going to people that have already been there, and it's relatively cheap for the quality of the person that has, they've gone to your website, they've already shown interest, they've shown intent. And so you're really only spending money on the people that have shown the intent. They show that they for whatever reason want to check out your website. And so I love retargeting ads. Anybody who starts a marketing campaign, I always suggest, PPC is kind of hard to get off the ground if you don't know what you're doing. And it's really expensive if you're hiring an agency. So if you don't want to master, online ads, at least get a retargeting campaign up, because your dollar for dollar, that's going to be your best ad spend. So cool. I mean, direct mail, it's a solid method of generating leads. It's one of my favorites. We've tried, everything under the sun. I feel like direct mail is just it's the sturdiest version of marketing for what we do.
Yeah. And the reason I like it too is if you think about the seller experience, right, of engaging with that kind of marketing. So you look at something like cold calling. So many people do cold calling because your cost per touch is really low, but you're invading that person's day. Yeah. Right. You're calling them when they're angry
about that. Yeah.
Yeah. They get angry. Even if they do have a distress issue, they're at the dentist, they're picking up their kids from school, they're trying to eat dinner, they're drunk, whatever. Like with direct mail, they are taking the conscious effort of receiving your letter, opening it, or like looking at your postcard, whatever, picking up their phone and choosing to reach out to you. They're immediately going to be more receptive. And so the conversations are that much more productive versus the cold calling ones where you're kind of trying to beat the door down. It's just a lot more aggressive.
Yep. I agree. Man, there's so much we can go into. I just took a look at the clock. We've already run down our time. Before we move on though, you're talking about going into markets. We're going to keep this one short, but give me the best way that you guys have found of creating your buyers list. So, you generate the leads and then you got to find somebody to buy them. Every single market, there's different buyers. So how do you guys most efficiently build your buyers list?
Leverage a key partner in that market.
Okay.
This is our key to the whole thing right now with the scale that we've done is you find a key partner. Okay. You have
is that like a broker or a real estate agent or just another wholesaler in the market?
Whatever it is, it doesn't matter. We've kind of had it be like a key flipper. We have a couple of our markets that we literally just sell everything to the same person.
Oh, okay.
We have some of our markets where they have like a list of buyers, they have connections, things like that. But the key is, right, and this is very important. This is something that no one else does, I don't think. You have to have them be willing to make a financial commitment to help fund the operation.
Interesting.
Right?
Okay.
Because if they don't do that, they will never treat you and your opportunities with that much respect, because they don't have any skin in the game.
Yep.
Right. So you find someone that's willing to put skin in the game and establish that partnership with them, that joint venture partnership. And it is the easiest way to launch in any virtual market.
No, right? That makes a lot of sense. And that is surprisingly, that's the first time I've heard of that. So Before we go on, give me just a little bit more detail. How do you structure it, and what kind of buy-in are you looking for? What is the money going to? You approach this person, you say, hey, we market for properties. We need X amount of dollars for what?
Yeah. So we have a few different ways that we structure it with people, right? So it all depends on the individual and what they're capable of. So we have some people that we basically split marketing costs with them, and then we split upside. We have a couple people, what we do is, and it's funny, this kind of came around when we started the first very serious buyer that we started to work with, where they were looking to just like keep a ton of properties, but they didn't want to pay us the wholesale fees. So we call it like our partnership program now. But they basically pay us to cover the entire cost of running the whole operation. They cover the marketing costs. We run the entire back end. We close all the deals, and then we just sell it to them for a pre-established fixed fee. Right. So it's almost like they're hiring us to be their own private wholesaler.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's almost like an agency model. Like they're hiring you to market for them. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And it's still under our brand. And we still run the sales team. We're still closing the deals. We're just doing everything. But we've already pre-negotiated our exit strategy with them. And so what it allows us to do is it reduces our risk on the marketing side. And it allows us to always have an exit strategy in place to reduce our risk on the disposition side. And so we can just focus on what we're good at, which is the marketing and the sales. And it works out really, really well. And, like all the relationships that we have are a little bit different. Every market that we're in virtually, we have this key partner. And some of them, like I said, we split the upside and we carry some of the costs. Some of them, they carry all the costs and we take less of a upside. And, you just got to find someone that is, actually able to perform like they say they're going to, willing to put that skin in the game so that they give you the respect that you need, and that you have like a good working relationship with and kind of like gets the wholesale process. Because something else that a lot of people don't realize is wholesaling is very different than like, if you're a recreational buyer that buys a couple of properties a year, or you're a realtor, right? It is very fast paced. You have to make decisions without a lot of information a lot of the time. You have to be able to act quickly. And you are taking more implied risk when you're buying these kind of properties, because you're never going to be able to do the due diligence that you want to do on like a retail purchase.
Yeah. You never know what's behind walls. I'm telling you that much. Yeah. There's crazy things people put in these walls. Mm-hmm. Right on, man. Well, that right there, that was a good gem. I really appreciate you sharing that. I did take a peek at the clock. It looks like we've way run down the time. So I'm going to move us on to the next, or to the quick question round. Are you ready?
Sure.
Let's do it. Starts with books or any form of education. You've already given us a few, but we're going to redo it. Give us 2 recommendations, one for general life wisdom, one for real estate specific.
I can't say the same ones. But 4-Hour Work Week for like a general life wisdom. Like I love that book, man. Just like the whole concept of it too is really good. Outside of that, general life wisdom, Never Split the Difference. With Chris Voss. It's a sales book, but so many of the different sales tactics that he talks about are applicable in everyday life, even outside of business, even if you're talking to like your wife or your parents or your friends or things like that. And that's a really, really good, I think, just like life book about how to structure conversations and how to think about conversations where there's any sort of negotiation, right? Which is what a lot of us do.
Yeah.
So I think that's a great one. And then real estate specific, you said?
Yep.
Yeah. So, just going back to like kind of the roots of real estate, I'm a really big fan of the Burr book from Bigger Pockets.
From Brandon Turner?
I think David Green actually wrote that one. But
okay.
One of those guys. Yeah. But the Burr book, I think was the first one that opened my eyes to the power of leverage and the importance of buying at a discount. I read that book, and that was actually one of the ones that introduced me to buying distressed properties.
Nice.
And, that's also one of the reasons we've been able to scale our portfolio so rapidly with not a huge amount of our money left in the deals at this point. So
perfect. I love it. Never Split the Difference. I've had that recommended to me a number of times. I haven't read it yet, but I'm going to have to pick it up because so many people say good things about it.
It's really good. We've given it to a lot of our sales guys over the years too. Just a lot of really actionable advice. And I always appreciate books that, like I said, actually like give you like a playbook for something and not just like a theory. Like they actually give you things that you can use.
This is what you actually do.
Yeah.
Right on. All right. I'm going to move us on to the next question. This is for your younger self. So let's go back to the Mike who was still at Boeing over here on the West Side. Go back to him, look him in the eyes, give him one piece of advice moving forward.
Like how early in my Boeing career are we talking? Like when I just started, or are we talking about after I was like 4 years in already?
Let's go back to when you just started.
Yeah. So when I just started,
Looks like we're having
about what everyone else thinks. Oh, back.
You're back. All right. We had a little bit of a
oh, sorry about that.
So keep going.
Yeah, I'd say I'd encourage him to stop worrying about what everyone else thinks and leave that job. Yeah, I those years of my life that I was there, it was, can't even really tell you what happened. I kind of just like went into autopilot. I went into corporate drone mode, and it failed. I mean, I saved up money. I had about 130 grand when I started my real estate journey, which was definitely very helpful, obviously, especially to like take the leap. It gave me a barrier, but I also think about how much more I could have accomplished if I had left that much earlier instead of just not gaining any skills and not doing any learning for all those years that I was there.
Yep. I'm going to jot that down as another guest on this podcast who said they wish they started earlier. I ask this question every time. Probably 90% of the people say they wish they started earlier. Mm-hmm. So if you guys are out there, you haven't started real estate, you're just, thinking about it. This is your individual message to get started. Go out there, just get a deal done. Everybody wishes they started earlier, me included. So just go out there, get your first deal done, and you will not regret it later in life.
Absolutely.
All right. Next question is a good question for you. This is about your business. The first 3 positions we hire form the foundation of our business. So what are the first 3 positions you hired, and would you do it differently if you did it again today?
Yeah. So the first 3 positions that we hired were a general admin to just do a lot of our back end, like data management, things like that. And then there was an acquisitions manager, and then a lead manager. And nice. I think that that's probably the order that I would do it again as well. I think the only thing that I would say to people is if you're in a position where you find that you are really good at the sales piece of this style of business or of real estate. So many people, they're really good at sales. They try to find an acquisitions manager and they're constantly just disgruntled because that person does not perform as well as them. If that's you, that's fine. Stay in the sales role as long as you don't hate it. And instead find a operator to work your back end and your marketing stuff and make that your first hire instead of the salesperson and hold on to that a little bit tighter. But yeah, so for me personally, I'd keep it the same, but I have good friends that tried to emulate the same thing and it did not work out. And then as soon as they found their operator, they did much better.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's great advice is stick with your strengths, hire for your weaknesses.
Yep.
All right. Next question is about the US. This is another good one for you. There's a lot of opportunity out there, a lot of metros to invest in. So what is the single city, the single metro that you're most excited about investing in today?
It's a good question as well. So I will say the places that we have had the most success and that I get the most excited about when we start working in these markets are, well, I guess you can pick any metro, but go about an hour outside of the core city area, right? And they're usually the places that not nearly as many people are looking for opportunities, but you can still picture the path of progress being there. Those are like that's been kind of like our secret. And if I had to pick like one area that I'm very excited to invest in, honestly, man, I love Washington State. I know people kind of like hate on the politics and those sort of things up here, but there's a reason that our housing prices are continuing to go up. There's a reason there's still a lot of people moving here. I mean, it's a beautiful area. Like it is a really great place to live from like a tax standpoint. I mean, we don't have income tax up here. And so it brings a lot of higher income individuals that want that. And, like still for the most part, all of my personal holdings I'm looking to continue to acquire are in Washington.
Yeah, no, I love Washington. I could never live anywhere else. I know I rag a lot about the clouds here in Seattle on the podcast, but I feel like I should stop doing that because it's not doing it justice. I absolutely love Washington. It's my favorite state. So invest where you're at. Love that. Moving us to the next question. And this is about mentors. None of us are islands. We all stand on the shoulders of giants. So who is one mentor who contributed significantly to your career today?
Yeah. So, my very first mentor, Ryan Dossie, he was the first mastermind that we joined. And what we learned working with him has legitimately changed my life. And that was really, really valuable. He still has his group out there that's really good. And then I guess to plug one more person too, there's different mentors for different phases of your life. And I think that's something that's really important because a lot of people, they kind of have like their original teacher and they want to stick with them forever. It's like, but you got to realize that like the coach that takes you to the state championship isn't the one that's going to take you to the NFL. Yeah. Right. And that's really important. And so we hired a business coach this year, Steve Rosenberg. He's gotten a pretty big presence these days, but he has been the reason that our business has like 3x'd this year so far. Just the way that he's focused on systems and actually like the business aspect of it has been incredibly major. Nice. So I think I can say like Ryan Dossie's the reason that I became a millionaire. Steve is the reason that I'm going to become a 8-figure person for sure.
Nice. I love it. That's really good advice and something that not a lot of people or nobody actually has brought up so far on the podcast. There are different mentors. Mentors come into our life throughout our career and they are just a blessing whenever they come in. But it's very important to recognize that there is a season for every mentor and each individual mentor will provide something unique to that stage that you're in. And, recognizing that and not holding on to one thinking that they have the golden keys to everything. I think that's really good advice for any stage of your career. So love that. I'm going to move us on to the very last question. You've given us a lot to think about. I'm sure people want to reach out, learn a little bit more about yourself, about the Collecting Keys podcast. So tell us what you guys offer, what people can expect when they reach out to you, and then what is the best way for people to get in contact with you?
Yeah. So if you want to hear kind of more about our business or, kind of the stuff that we do, the Collecting Keys podcast is the best way to do it. You can find it anywhere you listen to your shows. We do 3 episodes a week. We do interviews on Monday. We do what's called the Mike and Dan show on Wednesday, which is a lot more business talk and just like general economic talk. And then we do a Friday episode where we usually answer a question from a listener or we do a deep dive on a topic. And so that's a great way if you want to hear like kind of long form stuff. If you want to reach out to me directly, the best place is on Instagram. I'm at Mike_invests, and I'm always happy to chat with people on there. And, like if you're serious about wanting to take your real estate to the next level, that's kind of the stuff that we focus on. If you're still a newbie, you might learn some stuff too. But if you listen to it and you're like, man, I don't know what these guys are talking about, we do admittedly get into the weeds pretty heavily, but that's also kind of where I'm at. So
that's the engineering, yeah, right?
It is for sure. But yeah, hit me up on Instagram though. Seriously, I love to connect with people that way.
Cool. And that is Mike_invests for Instagram. And then the podcast is collectingkeyspodcast.com. I'll put both of those links in the show notes. So if y'all want to reach out to Mike, just click the more in the description. It'll pull down the full description and in there you can find those links. All right, man. Well, that wraps it up. Thank you very much for hopping on the show.
Sweet. Awesome, Gabe. Really appreciate it, man.
Absolutely. For everybody who's here with us today, thank you guys for showing up. You are the reason we do this. So if you guys have any questions whatsoever, reach out to me, Gabe at therealestateinvestingclub.com. And if you guys want to support the show, all we ask is you give us a like, subscribe, share, all that jazz. Other than that, I hope you guys have a great week. Keep rocking real estate. And I look forward to seeing you on the next episode. All right. Before I officially sign off, I have a quick announcement to make. If you're interested in becoming a passive investor in one of my deals, my own company, Kaizen Properties, is looking for capital partners for our upcoming projects. We invest in what are known as recession-resistant assets, mainly self-storage facilities, mobile home and RV parks, and industrial properties. If you're interested in investing and would like to learn a little bit more about my company, our investing criteria, and some of the previous projects we've done, go to the Real Estate Investing Club podcast at therealestateinvestingclub.com and scroll all the way down to the bottom of the page. Click on the Invest With Us button. That'll pop up the investor form. Fill that out, and we will reach back out to you as soon as we can. Or if you prefer a little bit more of a personal touch, you can reach out to me at Gabe at therealestateinvestingclub.com. So really, that is it. Again, it was a pleasure hanging out with you guys during this episode, and I look forward to seeing you on the next episode.